Hello there, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of DPDR Fridays. This is the video series for people who do suffer from depersonalization, but you just want a bit of a break. You want some hope, you want some more joy, you want some excitement, you want some fun, you want some positivity back into your life. And today I'm going to talk about my recovery story from depersonalization. And in fact, I didn't have depersonalization. I had really bad depression for a while. I had really bad anxiety for a while. And it got to a point where I was starting to experience derealization as well. First of all, let me sort of just talk to you here that I know what you're going through. And I know that it doesn't feel normal. It doesn't feel right. It can feel completely hopeless. And it also can feel like you're going to have this forever. What I experienced was equally as bad. I was really down in the dark hole of all of this crap which was going on. And it did get to a point where I did just start to go, maybe this is just what my life is like now. The beginning signs of it all was when I just started to get angry at a lot of things. I just started to get more irritable and more snappy at small things that went wrong. And it got to a point where a friend actually said to me, Dan, I think you might be depressed. And I'm like, oh, okay. When he said this, I just it just really hit home. I'm like, you know what, maybe you're right. And I know right now you're thinking, well, Dan, what the hell has this got to do with depersonalization? So I'll get to that right now. And the fact that I was down in the doldrums, and as a way of like getting out of any type of mental illness that you're going through is to sort of do normal things. You know, you have to force yourself to get out of bed sometimes. You have to force yourself to eat, go to work, whatever it is, and go out. And I was finding that when I was going out, forcing myself to do this, I'd start to get really anxious, and I wasn't really sure why I was getting anxious. And then it started to get to a point where I'd be anxious and then I'd start to almost like daydream a little bit. Or what would sort of happen as well is that just sort of suddenly it's like a flip sort of switched, and all of a sudden just everything felt really weird. It's like all the sounds sort of would become muffled quite quickly, and I'd sort of go into my own head. And it's like everything was really clear in my head, but everything outside of me was really sort of distant and muffled. And I just found this pattern repeating. And this is one of the big things, isn't it? It's patterns. It's not a one-off thing. It's you got to notice what patterns are happening. And this was the pattern that I was noticing. And I didn't really know what to do about it. I wasn't really looking online about anything. I wasn't seeing a therapist. I wasn't doing anything. This continued on for months and months and months and months. And all that time I kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse in terms of my anxiety and my depression as well. Like I pretty much became a zombie. All I would do is get up, watch Star Trek Voyager all day, you know, eat when I needed to, be grateful that it was the end of the day just so I could go to sleep again, because really sleep was the only relief that I actually had. And then I just get up and do it again. And, you know, I sort of knew deep down that it wasn't good for me doing this, but I still did it anyway. Like essentially I'd just given up. So I decided to go see a therapist. That's what I decided. I'm just like, let's talk to a professional who knows about the brain, knows about the mind, and see what's going on there. And I went to see her and I started talking about how I was feeling when I was social and how I got really anxious, and I sort of felt spaced out quite a lot of the time, and I felt, you know, sort of trapped in my own thoughts, and the thoughts were just racing around, and perhaps I couldn't really, you know, concentrate on what I was talking about to other people, or I'd zone out. And one day in one of the sessions, I think this is the third or fourth session in, she said to me, well, Dan, tell me how you feel when you're talking to other people. And I said, I felt really nervous and anxious. And she's like, well, why do you feel that way? And I said, because I feel that if I can't say something, or if I can't keep the conversation going, then they're not going to like me anymore, or they're going to get bored, or they're going to laugh at me. So it's almost like I had to keep like proving myself. And what it got down to essentially was she said something to me, which was a light bulb going off. It was an aha moment. And what she said was, Dan, if you've been hanging out with people for a long time, And, over the course of a weekend or 3 or 4 days or whatever it is. And she said, Dan, it's natural for the conversations to naturally come to an end. Or why do you think you should have to try and keep the conversation going for that long? Like, is that a reasonable thing to expect of yourself to be able to do that? And I kind of went, oh, crap. I've honestly never thought of it that way before. Like, I'm not a robot. I'm not a computer. Like, I can't just keep going and going and going and going and giving it 100% and all that type of stuff. And it was phenomenal what actually happened, because right in that moment, I suddenly realized that a rule that I had set for myself was, in order for me to be liked, I have to please everybody, and I have to keep conversations going, and I have to look fun, and I have to be entertaining. Because way back when I was a kid getting bullied, the only way I could sort of, get liked and get attention and not be bullied was to try and be nice and try and talk and be fun and keep the conversation going. And it sort of worked for me back then. So obviously, as an adult, without actually challenging that thought, I thought that it's going to work for me now as well. After that, the anxiety went from a 10 down to a 1, and the feeling spaced out, and the sudden flick of a switch where all of a sudden everything would sort of go all a bit muffled and distant and not, part of my surroundings, went from a 10 basically down to a 0. How it is now is that the only anxiety I really experience is just the normal stuff. I don't have any depersonalization, any derealization, any depression, any anxiety really. And all it took was that. I mean, it took a heck of a lot of work from my end as well. I had to really want this to go, and talking to someone, and that was it. So there you go. That's my story. And I hope you can draw a little bit of inspiration from it, and just to see how simple it is, and just to sort of highlight to you that some of the things that you're telling yourself is probably what's sort of causing all this stuff. I know that everybody's different and there are different things for everybody, but it sort of really is that simple. Basically, our life is just stuff we tell ourselves. For example, if you went on that first date and the person didn't text you back, you don't know why they didn't text you back. You can probably guess, you could run through your head a million times why they didn't. You're not going to know, but you're giving you're getting sort of strength and weight to that event by sort of thinking that you do know. In reality, you don't have the foggiest idea why, unless you specifically ask them. And then even if you do, they could lie to you. So why not give it a good meaning? Oh, they didn't text me back because they were busy. They didn't text me back because I was so amazing and they didn't think that they could handle me. Whatever it is, that's going to be a lot more positive than, oh, I suck. That's why they didn't text me back. And my friends, I really hope you've enjoyed hearing my story, and I hope it's given you a bit of inspiration for you. And until next time, my friends, have an awesome day, and I'll see you all later. Bye.